Discover the incredible, life-changing love story that revealed 10 hidden, touching secrets. Emma poured another steaming cup of coffee into a chipped mug, her smile radiant as she handed it to Mr. Thompson, a regular who sat in his usual booth, newspaper spread wide. Today, the smell of bacon and the sound of clinking silverware couldn't drown out the thundercloud in her heart. Her father, Jack, was fading. The weight of his sacrifices for their country felt heavier every day, as her dreams fluttered just out of reach. This little diner, tucked away in the heart of a small Midwestern town, was more than just her job, it was her lifeline. Each shift was a promise to keep them afloat, a chance to put a dash of kindness into the regulars' lives, even as she struggled in silence. The laughter of children in the local park played like a symphony against her longing. They were creating memories she clung to, even as isolation crept into her veins. Beneath the cheerful chatter, she felt helpless, caught between duty to her father and yearning for a brighter future. Then, this rainy afternoon, the door swung open with a chime that sent a chill through the air. Ryan burst in, his laughter breaking through the storm. The son of a wealthy businessman, he appeared like a knight wrapped in an aura of charm and privilege. They locked eyes, and for a heartbeat, she saw beyond his smooth facade the pressure weighing him down, hidden in the way he blinked too fast and tucked his hair behind his ear. "Is this where you get the best coffee in town?" he asked, a teasing smile playing on his lips. Emma couldn't help but laugh, a lightness bubbling within her. The energy between them was electric. They chatted easily, and before long, Ryan was a regular at the diner, sharing stories that echoed her own struggles, though cloaked in a different sort of pressure. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. As they forged their friendship, they both searched for something more. Together, they envisioned a local initiative to bring life back to their town. A spark lit under the weight of their combined burdens, but as they delved deeper, secrets unfurled like petals, revelations that linked their families in dark and twisted ways. In the midst of planning a community event, everything erupted. The raw frustration of people poured into protest as they called for change. Emma's heart raced, she could hear her father's voice in her mind. Torn between the weight of loyalty and the hope for love, she stood beside Ryan, feeling the crackling tension of society beneath their feet. As they faced the crowd, uncertainty gripped her. The stakes were higher than she'd ever dreamed. Would she honor her father's sacrifices, or brave the storm of societal judgment for a love that felt, despite all odds, like it could change everything? Emma stood at the edge of the crowd, heart pounding against her chest like a drum. She could feel the energy rolling off the people gathered around, a tide rushing toward change. A few faces turned her way, and she recognized both support and skepticism in their eyes. Ryan stood next to her, facing the crowd, and she could see the determination etched on his face, that same determination that had drawn her to him. A group of elderly men in worn jackets raised their voices, calling out for justice, for their stories to be heard, for their town to be brought back to life. Emma's gaze shifted to Ryan, who clenched his fists as he stepped forward, his voice rising above the noise, urging calm amidst the storm. "Together, we can create a space where everyone is valued." For a moment, silence hung in the air after Ryan spoke, as if the crowd were weighing his words, considering their truth. The connection they shared felt tangible, like an unbreakable thread binding them to this moment. Emma's father had always taught her to stand up for what was right, even when it felt like the weight of the world was on her shoulders. But this was different. This was messy, filled with emotions and conflicts she wasn't sure how to navigate. Suddenly, everything felt like a gamble. The stakes were raised higher than she imagined. It wasn't just about the town but about who she wanted to become. The protesting voices swirled around, their passions clashing. A man in a gray hoodie shouted something that echoed Emma's fears. "You're just a couple of kids. What do you know about real struggle?" His words were sharp as glass, designed to cut a wound into their efforts. Ryan turned to Emma, his eyes reflecting the intensity of their situation. In that moment, he seemed more vulnerable than ever, a young man fighting for a dream that echoed her own but wrapped in an entirely different set of expectations. She could sense the weight of doubt in his posture, his shoulders tight, and she knew she had to break the silence that held them both captive. "You're right," she shouted, surprising even herself. "We might be kids, but we are living it. We know what it's like to feel lost and go unheard. But we are fighting for our dreams, just like you." The crowd shifted, murmurs replaced the shouts, glances exchanged between those whose fears were mirrored in her words. Emma stepped forward, stepping into her own light. "We might fall, but we will stand. If we work together, we can lift each other up." A surge of support rippled through the crowd. She felt a shift, like the tide turning in their favor. They were still standing here, breathing hope into the anxious air. Among the noise and uncertainty, she looked at Ryan, her heart racing, both terrified and exhilarated. His face lit up with an admiration that made her feel brave. They were not just fighting for the town, they were fighting for each other, but as cheers began to erupt, Emma caught a glimpse of a figure retreating into the shadows. Her heart sank as she recognized him, someone tied to a secret she wished to forget. A reminder of all that could shatter her fragile moment of hope. What did he see? Did he know the things she was trying to keep hidden? The realization stole her breath, casting a heavy shadow over her resolve. The night felt darker, and the crowd grew distant. She grasped Ryan's hand tightly, her fingers trembling. "What if it all comes crashing down?" she whispered, fear etching into her voice. Ryan turned to her, his eyes fierce with determination. "Whatever happens, we'll face it together." But as they turned their gaze forward, a sense of foreboding loomed just beneath the surface. Just when everything felt ready to spark, would their courage be enough to keep the flames alive, or would the weight of the past pull them back into the shadows? The crowd's anticipation hung in the air, electric and heavy with expectation. Emma's heart raced, but a current of fear twisted in her stomach. She tried to focus on Ryan's firm grip, feeling the warmth radiate between them, but the shadows of her past loomed larger. Whispers floated through the air like tiny daggers. "Look, she's panicking," scoffed a voice from the back. A wave of jeers ignited. Emma flinched, her body curling into itself for a moment, battling the urge to retreat, to hide from the judgment that felt like a spotlight aimed directly at her insecurities. "Emma." Ryan's voice broke through the cacophony. He turned to the crowd again, voice unwavering. "Listen. It's time for us to stand together, for the forgotten voices. We're out here because we believe in something. Not just for ourselves but for our entire community." The heat of the crowd swelled. Some faces were still skeptical, others shared uneasy glances, but more and more began to nod in agreement. The elderly men in their worn jackets, the young moms juggling babies, and even the teens reluctant to show support all began drawing closer, drawn in by the echo of unity that started to overpower dissent. Emma felt a flicker of hope, but it was quickly snuffed by an image of the figure she had seen earlier. Could this be the moment when her past would come crashing down, exposing everything she had fought to keep hidden? "Look," she began, her voice trembling at the edges. "We don't have all the answers. We don't pretend to know everything about struggle. But we know what it feels like to want change. To want hope. And if we're brave enough to speak up, maybe, just maybe, we can inspire others to do the same." With each word, her confidence grew. Not just for herself, but for Ryan and everyone in the crowd. She turned to him, her eyes pleading for reassurance. His gaze bore into hers, a reflection of shared resolve. It was a reminder of why they were standing there, for dreams, for the people like her father who never faltered in the fight. Suddenly, the figure emerged again from the shadows, walking toward the crowd with purpose. Emma gasped. It was Mark, her childhood friend who'd known too much about her past, the messy family drama, the secrets that haunted her. Her heart hammered in her chest as he approached. "Emma," he called, looking straight at her, voice steady but urgent. "I know what you're trying to do, and I want to help." A mix of emotions surged within her as the crowd quieted, focusing on Mark. How could he help when he was a piece of the past she wanted to forget? Their eyes locked, and she couldn't tell if he was the lifeline she needed or an anchor pulling her back into dark waters. "Why should we trust you?" someone shouted, fueling her uncertainty, but before Mark could respond, Ryan stepped forward, issuing a challenge that surprised everyone, including Emma. "Why should we not? Every voice matters, including his. We need to unite for real change." Could this unexpected twist be the key to bridging the past with their dreams for tomorrow? Emma's soul fluttered with hope, even as a nagging doubt pulled at her heartstrings. As the crowd murmured again, caught between skepticism and curiosity, she felt all eyes on her. What would she say? Would she take the leap and invite Mark into the fold, or retreat into the shadows of her past? The questions weighed heavily, her world teetering on the brink of revelation. The moment hung in the air, ready to either fortify their fight or dissolve in confusion and hurt. Armored by Ryan's unwavering support, Emma faced the reality of her fears, knowing she had to decide before the night slipped away. Would she break down the walls? Or would her past keep her from seizing the future she so desperately wanted? With the crowd whispering anxiously and the weight of expectations pressing down on her shoulders, Emma knew this moment could change everything. The tension crackled around her like static, setting her nerves on edge. Mark was there, a living reminder of the life she had fought so hard to escape. He stood just beyond the reach of Ryan's steady grip, his expression a mix of determination and hope. "Emma," he called again, his voice steady despite the gravity of the moment. "I want to help because I believe in you, in us." "Us?" Emma echoed, incredulous. Memories flooded her mind, the laughter of easy days, the lingering sadness of lost connections, and secrets tucked away under layers of hurt. Could this be the chance to reclaim what had been broken? Was he a bridge to a past she desperately wanted to forsake, or the anchor to her turmoil? Ryan stirred beside her, sensing her hesitation. "You know him, Emma. He's one of us. We're talking about real change here." His words lingered, urging her to consider not just her fears but the strength that came with vulnerability. The crowd shifted, their moods swaying like a pendulum. The older men exchanged glances, the young moms whispered to one another, and the teens mulled over the unfolding drama. Emma felt their collective gaze, curiosity, skepticism, and faint hope painted on their faces. "What do you say, Emma?" Ryan's voice was a calm amidst the storm. "Let us not let the past define us. This is an opportunity, a chance to show them that we're not just battling for ourselves but for the future." She searched Mark's face, hoping to find answers in the familiar lines. His sincerity felt raw. The girl she'd once been surged to the surface, searching for strength within the confines of chaos. Did their shared history grant him the leverage to help them move forward, or was it enough to pull her backward? "Okay," she found herself saying, the word barely a whisper against the bustling noise. "Let us hear what you have to say, Mark." It felt like stepping off a precipice, hoping for something to catch her even as a piece of her wished for the safety of the ground beneath. As Mark cautiously stepped forward, a hush fell over the gathering. "I know what it's like to feel forgotten," he began. "To feel like your voice doesn't matter. But I believe we can make a difference. Together. Emma, you inspired me to stand up, to confront the shadows that plague us, and I want us to speak about the struggles we've faced." Emma's heart ached at his words. The vulnerability echoed her own, and for the first time, the past didn't feel like a chain, rather, it felt like a story that could weave them into something new. "I know it won't be easy," Mark pressed on, meeting the crowd's scrutiny with unwavering resolve. "But if we keep our heads down and fight together, we can lift each other up. We need to be honest not just with ourselves but with the community." We have stories that need to be heard. Emotion rippled through the assembly, a growing tide of connection sparked by vulnerability. Emma felt her breath catch. Maybe, just maybe, this wouldn't end in the wreckage she feared, but deep down, one question gnawed at her: what would happen if she opened that door to her past just a fraction wider? Could she embrace it, redefine it, or would it shackle her to a past that was never fully behind her? As murmurs of agreement began to swell amongst the crowd, Emma wrestled with her own doubts. She felt the weight of history in the air, pushing against her. Now, it was about moving forward, but where exactly would that path lead? Together we can shine a light on those shadows, Ryan said beside her, a beacon of unwavering support. But we need to be brave. Emma nodded slowly, a flicker of resolve igniting within. All right. Let us be brave. As they stood before the crowd, her heart pounded with an unfamiliar thrill. The moment felt monumental, but a new voice of uncertainty lingered at the edges of her mind. Would the truth she chose to uncover bring them together or splinter them apart? What new challenges awaited as they navigated the tangled web of stories they shared? Emma took a deep breath, her heart racing as she stood at the edge of a new chapter. Mark's presence was both a comfort and a storm, stirring memories that danced tantalizingly close to the surface. She could see the eager faces in the crowd, waiting for her to guide them into the unknown. The air was thick with anticipation, every heartbeat echoing in the stillness. Okay, let us hear it together, she finally said, her voice ringing out clearer now, her confidence growing. Mark nodded, his eyes shining as he stepped closer, emboldened by her affirmation. We all have stories, right? Stories that may not always be pretty but deserve to be shared, he began. I remember the moments we were supposed to connect but instead just drifted. We fought so hard to silence our pain. But what if we let that pain out? What if we created a space where everyone could speak, without fear? Echoes of agreement murmured through the crowd. Between them, Emma could see nods and approving glances. Maybe the bond they once had could be reignited, not as it once was, but forged anew through honesty and shared experiences. It was a flicker against the dark, a chance to rewrite the narrative. Imagine what we could accomplish if we pushed past the silence, Mark continued, gaining further momentum. I'm ready to listen to each and every one of you. We can build something special. His eyes locked onto Emma, and in that moment, she felt the weight of his faith radiate through her. Ryan stepped forward, buoyed by the encouragement in the air. Look, he interjected, it's not just about the words we share. It's about the actions that follow. His tone was powerful, resonating through the crowd, binding them together in shared purpose. It's time we put our fears away and face the reality of our situation, the good and the bad. Together. Together, echoed the crowd, stirring with unity. Each voice raised added weight to the moment, creating a tapestry of hope that wound around Emma's heart. The collective energy felt electric and alive, and she surrendered to the uplifting tide. But somewhere in the back of her mind, shadows loomed, whispering doubts that nipped at her heels. What if she opened herself up, only to be met with rejection? Was she really ready to expose her scars? She forced a nervous smile, standing resilient as she looked back at Mark. Let us start small, she suggested, feeling a swell of courage. Who wants to share something they've been holding on to? The air thickened with anticipation as a ripple of hesitation coursed through the crowd. A young woman stepped forward, her resolve visibly shaken but determined. I've felt invisible here, she said, her voice quaking. I've lost my way, but I want to find it again. Tears glistened in her eyes, and suddenly the vulnerability transformed the ambience. One by one, people began to step forward, each finding the courage to speak their truths. Emma watched in wonder as words spilled forth, raw and real. The stories were voices of struggle, tales of loss, and instances of resilience that echoed her own. The crowd listened, creating a space not just for each other's voices but for healing. As time melted away, she felt the chains of her past loosening, unraveling the fear that once held her tightly. Here in this moment, amid confessions and understanding, Hope bloomed, but amid this collective healing, Emma couldn't shake the thoughts that bred deep within her. The more they shared, the more questions nagged at her. Would those who had once hurt her with their own secrets suddenly vanish into the shadows when confronted with their truth? Would she find the strength to forgive them, or would the weight of betrayal linger? As the last voice fell silent and murmurs of connection settled around them, Emma stood at a crossroads of her own making. The crowd exhaled a sigh of relief. The door to the past had been cracked ajar, and a world of possibilities stretched out before them, but at what cost? What would happen when the past and present collided? And could forgiveness really pave the way for a brighter future? Emma felt the weight of those unspoken secrets hanging in the air. The crowd around her buzzed softly, voices mingling in the aftermath of shared emotions. Even in the aftermath of their catharsis, uncertainty remained. She could sense a shift, a potential for something transformative, yet shadows loomed, hungry for attention. Mark stepped up again, as if sensing Emma's inner turmoil. "Let us not just share our experiences," he urged, his voice steady. "Let us make promises to ourselves today. Promises to be better, to confront our truths, and to face those who have hurt us." Heads nodded, enthusiasm replacing the earlier hesitance. Emma felt the spark of hope reignite in her chest. Could it be that simple? She thought of her own past wounds, the betrayal that still stung. Forgiveness felt like a mountain, daunting and imposing. Emma cleared her throat, ready to add her voice to the conversation. I think we need to recognize that it's okay to feel fear," she began, her gaze scanning the crowd. "Fear of being vulnerable again, fear of rejection. But those fears can't dictate our future." Just then, a man stepped out from the back, hands shoved deep in his pockets. Emma recognized him immediately. Jordan, someone she once considered a friend before misunderstandings had severed their bond. His presence sent a jolt through her system, a reminder of everything she had pushed aside. "I have something to say," he said, his tone calm but heavy with unspoken history. "Emma, I'm sorry for how things ended between us. We all made choices that hurt each other, but I want to fix that. I want to start over." Gasps echoed among the crowd. Emma's heart raced. Was this the moment of truth she had dreaded? "Jordan," she stammered, caught off guard by the boldness of his approach. "No, let me finish," he interjected, taking a step closer. "We've been in this cycle of pain for too long. I want to share my regrets, but more importantly, I want to hear yours. What happened between us doesn't just belong to the past. We need to confront it to move forward." Remembering the pain of their last conversation, an avalanche of feelings crashed over Emma. Anger, hurt, and deep-seated longing swirled inside her. But she also felt something else: curiosity. What could honesty unlock? Could they both emerge from the wreckage? The crowd fell silent, every eye focused on the two of them. Emma tried to breathe, to find the right words, but it felt like she was standing at the edge of a diving board, peering down into unknown depths. "I just wanted to be seen," she admitted, her voice shaking but clear. "I wanted to be understood." Jordan nodded, understanding breaking through the tension. "You deserved so much more than I gave you." The moment felt monumental, a collective breath taken by all present. A delicate balance hung in the air, shimmering with possibilities. Mark encouraged this exchange, stepping back to allow Emma and Jordan the space to share their truths. She could see the others in the crowd locked in anticipation, waiting to see what would unfold next. As emotions reshaped the atmosphere around them, Emma's heart raced. The chance for honesty hung like ripe fruit within reach, but would she grasp it? Would she be brave enough to dive deep into her hurt and let go of the past? Just then, a small voice piped up from behind. "Can we all talk about our regrets?" A young girl asked, her face full of innocence. "I want to share mine, too." That question hung in the air like a spark, igniting the fire of collective healing. Emma's heart swelled. Perhaps this was the moment they had all been waiting for, the moment of raw connection that could pave the way for forgiveness. As more voices began to chime in, Emma felt the past loosening its grasp on her heart. But deep down, her turmoil lingered, like clouds waiting to rain. What if the truth hurt more than it healed? What if forgiveness remained just out of reach? Could they all emerge from this together? Or would the cycle of pain continue? Emma felt the answers swaying on the edge, ready to tumble into the open as the next layer of their collective truth emerged. The young girl's question hung in the air, and Emma could feel the energy in the room shift. It wasn't just about her and Jordan anymore, it was becoming something much bigger. Voices started weaving together, forming a tapestry of vulnerability and shared experience. One by one, others began stepping forward, each carrying their own burdens, ready to unearth their regrets. Once, I lied to a friend, an older woman spoke hesitantly, her voice cracking. I thought I was protecting her, but it only created distance between us. Tears glistened in her eyes, reflecting the collective emotions swirling around them. The tension in Emma's chest eased slightly, her heart pounding in sync with the rhythm of confession. Another man stood up. I left my family when they needed me, he began, a tremor in his voice. I've carried that guilt for years, and it eats away at me. I want them to know I'm sorry, that I want to make it right. His shoulders slumped with the weight of his admission, yet there was a new light in his eyes, a flicker of hope ignited by vulnerability. Jordan glanced at Emma, a silent agreement passing between them. They were both aware this moment was somehow monumental, a ripple effect spreading through the crowd like a soft, healing wave. Emma felt her own fears bubbling up, eager to take their turn. Yet, the weight of her truth felt heavier than she anticipated, a stone lodged deep within her heart. What could she say? Would her sorrow be too much for everyone else to bear? But then she remembered Mark's words. This was about confronting truths, breaking free from the cycle of pain. She took a breath, steadied herself, and found her voice. I wanted to stand up for myself, she began, her heartbeat quickening. I let past hurts define me. I let fear dictate my choices. I turned away from people who loved me because I was afraid they would hurt me again. The words seemed to fill the space. She felt the warmth of understanding from the crowd. Jordan moved closer, his presence a grounding force. Emma, I never meant to make you feel that way, he said softly, his eyes locked onto hers. I failed to see your pain. Each confession opened the door wider, encouraging even more vulnerabilities. People began to nod and murmur, their compassion tangible, as they unfolded layers of their own hearts. It became a chorus of humanity, revealing imperfections and struggles typical to everyone but often hidden behind smiles and small talk. Emma's chest swelled as she observed the healing taking place. Perhaps, she thought, this was what they all needed, a place to be honest, a shared acknowledgement that they were all islands in a stormy sea, longing for connection, yet still, the flicker of fear lingered. What if her words didn't bring healing, but instead pushed her deeper into darkness? She wanted to feel brave, to finally take the leap off that diving board. But each second, the plunge felt increasingly daunting. I think there are things we all want to change, Emma spoke, her resolve strengthening. But how do we actually make those changes? How do we turn regret into a path forward? Her eyes scanned the crowd, searching for guidance among those who seemed to be wrestling with similar questions. This wasn't just about sharing, it was about transformation. And Emma desperately wanted to believe that it was within their reach. She could sense the possibility for something profound. As she finished speaking, a weighted silence wrapped around the gathering. Everyone felt the weight of the question, a collective inquiry pressed against the fabric of their souls. What if this was just the beginning? What if they were all on the brink of discovering deeper truths about themselves? Could they confront their deepest fears together and emerge stronger? The moment surged with an electrifying tension, every face reflecting a mix of hope and trepidation. Just then, Mark stepped back into the spotlight. I think it's time we break down the barriers between us, he proposed, anticipation brimming in his voice. Let us create groups and share our truths more intimately. Emma's heart raced. Would this bring the changes they all sought, or would the healing start to fracture under the weight of deeper truths? She found herself both exhilarated and frightened. As the crowd began shifting, forging connections, her question lingered, could they truly rise together? Or would fears once again pull them apart? As the crowd buzzed with whispered anticipation, Emma felt a sudden surge of warmth unfurling in her chest. The way Mark spoke, with such conviction, stirred something deep within her. She exchanged a glance with Jordan, who wore an expression of hope mixed with uncertainty. They were navigating uncharted waters, and every eye in the room seemed to reflect the same yearning for connection. "Okay, let's find our circles," Mark called out, his voice steady yet intimate. "Gather in groups of 4 or 5. Don't hold back. Just speak from your heart." The attendees filtered into small clusters, each group filled with a range of emotions: nervous laughs, hesitant smiles, and whispers laced with vulnerability. Emma noticed a familiar face, an old neighbor named Sarah, who hadn't attended any local gatherings for years. Sarah's eyes widened with surprise and joy when their gazes met. "Emma," she said softly, stepping closer. "I didn't know you would be here. It's been so long." Shocked at seeing her, Emma smiled. "It really has, hasn't it? Are you feeling okay about this?" Sarah sighed deeply, glancing toward the small huddle forming nearby. "Honestly? Not really. I've held so much and I don't even know where to begin." Emma placed a comforting hand on Sarah's arm, the warmth radiating through the fabric of her shirt. "You know what? I think we're all feeling that way. It's scary, but this is our chance to breathe a little." Encouraged, Sarah nodded, and their attention shifted to the group settling in around them. Emma and Sarah positioned themselves next to 2 other women and a young man who looked just as apprehensive. "I guess I'll go first," said Jessica, one of the women, her eyes darting between everyone. "I lost my brother last year, and I never really talked about it. A part of me feels like I should have saved him. I thought I'd feel better if I kept it to myself." She swallowed hard, tears pooling but not spilling just yet. Emma felt that familiar tug on her heart, the understanding that came with shared burdens. "Sharing helps," Jordan chimed in from nearby, shaking off the nervousness that had settled in his bones like an unwelcome chill. "I know it's rough, but it's also freeing. You're not alone in this. None of us are." As the atmosphere shifted, Emma could see the compassion rippling through their little circle. No one seemed to notice the time passing. The outside world became distant as layers of hurt peeled away like soft, fragile petals. Next was the young man. "I always thought that if I just stayed quiet, everything would go away. I let my family suffer alone. I never really learned how to ask for help. It's exhausting, but I want to change." His earnestness struck a chord within Emma. She wanted that change too, for herself, for Jordan, for Sarah. Then it was her turn. A wave of fear crashed over her. What could she say that could encapsulate her struggle? Would they even understand? She took a breath, feeling Jordan's hand squeeze hers for support. "I've spent too many years living in my comfort zone, hiding from the things that hurt," Emma began, her voice shaking but laced with determination. "I neglected my dreams because I was terrified of failing again. I used to think it was easier this way, but I'm learning that it only brings more pain." The weight of that admission was palpable, drawing empathy from the group. It felt like unveiling a hidden truth, something she hadn't spoken out loud before. "Change begins with us," Sarah whispered, her eyes brimming. "We have to be brave enough to lean into the discomfort." Mark's nod from across the room suggested he could feel the current building between them. With every confession, each moment of fleeting bravery, the energy crackled with possibility. "What comes next?" Emma blurted, entranced by her own vulnerability and courage. "Now that we're sharing, how do we take these feelings further?" As she finished speaking, the haven they created pulsed with a new urgency, an unspoken agreement hanging thick in the air. What could they accomplish if they didn't shy away from the lingering fears? Would they be able to stitch the rips in their lives together, or would old patterns push them back into silent shadows? Emma locked eyes with Jordan, searching for something, anything, to help her see the next step. As the silence stretched, every breath felt charged with potential. Emma's heart raced. What could come next? In the midst of their vulnerability, the weight of expectation hung thick. Suddenly, Mark stepped forward, his eyes bright with inspiration. "Let's create a vision together," he said, his voice cutting through the heavy air like a knife. "What if we each committed to one small action that would help us move beyond sharing? A step, no matter how tiny, that moves us toward healing?" Emma's pulse quickened. A vision? It sounded both thrilling and terrifying. She looked around the group, seeing hope flicker in the eyes of new friends forged through shared pain. "How about we make a pact?" the young man suggested, his voice steadier now. "If we each take one step this week, we come back next time and share where it took us. Facing our fears together. Like a personal challenge." Jessica exclaimed, her earlier sorrow morphing into excitement. "We could hold each other accountable." "It could be anything, really." The group murmured in agreement. Emma felt that this was more than just a gathering. They were building something solid, a support system that could hold each of them up as they navigated their separate trials. "So," Mark pressed, looking at each person. "Who wants to share their step?" Sarah shifted in her seat, her brow furrowed. "I've been thinking about art. I used to paint. I loved it, but I abandoned it when life got hard. I want to pick up my brushes again and create anything. I think it would remind me of who I used to be." "I love that." Jessica beamed. "What about you, Emma?" Emma's mind whirled, and she hesitated. What was her step? A part of her wanted to say something practical, safe. But recalling her earlier confession sparked that familiar fire in her chest. "I want to reapply to the art program I left when I was younger. I've been lukewarm about it for too long. It feels scary, but sharing here makes me feel braver." Jordan squeezed her hand tighter. "That's powerful, Emma." "All right." Mark clapped his hands together. 2 steps down. "Let's keep going." The young man spoke next, buoyed by the energy in the room. "I plan to reach out to my sister. She's been distant, and it's time I ask her what's really going on. I want to be there for her, even if it feels awkward." The air crackled with promise as more people shared. Each step echoed with purpose, hope spilling out into the open as they embraced the notion of facing uncomfortable truths together. Emma felt herself swell with gratitude. These new connections were like threads weaving them into a tapestry of solidarity. She looked at Jordan, who seemed more and more sure of himself, his eyes sparkling with determination. This is amazing," Emma breathed, overwhelmed. Just then, a thought crossed her mind. What happens if we fail? What if we can't make those steps? Then we come back here, Sarah replied firmly. We pick each other back up. We face it again, together. Mark smiled widely. It's not about perfection, it's about progress. Each effort counts. It shows we're willing to show up, for ourselves and each other. The conversation flowed, each person revealing their hopes and fears, drawing closer with each exchange. As the group began outlining plans and encouraging one another, Emma felt the flicker of her old dreams reigniting, but beneath the excitement, a shadow of doubt flickered. What if the steps they vowed to take were too much? What if, when she returned, she faced judgment instead of support? As the session began to wind down, Mark's voice cut through her thoughts once more. Let's set a date for our next meeting next Saturday. We can all connect on our journeys and see how far we've come. Emma inhaled sharply. Was she truly ready for this? She glanced at Jordan, who caught her eye and smiled reassuringly. Maybe this was how change started, with one small step into the unknown. The group broke apart, laughter bubbling as they exchanged numbers and ideas, promising to hold each other accountable. Emma walked out feeling lighter but anxious, her heart pounding in anticipation and fear. Just as she reached the door, she turned back and looked at her new group one last time. It dawned on her that facing themselves meant facing a whole new reality, a reality she was now part of. "Wait," she called out, her voice trembling slightly. What if we go beyond just our individual steps? What if we did something together that could impact our community?" She felt the tension in the air shift as everyone turned to listen, their interest piqued. What could they do together? As she opened her mouth to suggest ideas, Emma felt the hearts in the room align around her, holding the promise of something extraordinary on the horizon. The week flew by like a whirlwind. Emma felt like she was living in fast forward, her heart racing with anticipation and just a hint of anxiety as Saturday approached. She couldn't shake the excitement bubbling within her, reminding her of the power of hope and connection. Each time the idea of their group meeting floated into her mind, her heartbeat quickened. She spent each day clinging to her promise, painting little pieces of her past onto canvas. Her brush danced with newfound energy, feeling lighter with each stroke. As colors blended and shapes emerged, she understood that it wasn't just art coming to life, it was her spirit reclaiming joy. On Saturday, she arrived at the diner early, nervous but filled with optimism. The familiar scent of coffee and fried eggs welcomed her, calming yet exhilarating. Each waiting minute felt like a turning point, a moment before the launch. She set her canvases on the table, a riot of color and emotion, while the other members trickled in, their faces bright with expectation. "Wow, Emma!" Sarah exclaimed, eyes lit with admiration. "These are beautiful." "Yeah, they reflect your heart," Mark added, peering closely. "I can feel your passion." Emma's heart swelled, a radiant smile stretching across her face. "I wanted to share, you know? Our things matter, and I feel inspired to show that." One by one, the group of friends arrived, each carrying a piece of their own journey. As they settled, Emma watched the transformation. Jordan stepped forward and cleared his throat, a sense of purpose shining through his demeanor. "I reached out to my sister," he began, vulnerability threading through his voice. "I didn't just send a text. I called her, and she opened up. It was scary, but we talked, really talked, and it felt good to finally connect." Cheers erupted, laughter mingling with warmth, filling the diner with an electrifying buzz of camaraderie. The rest of the group chimed in with encouragement, their connection tightening like a shared dream woven tighter. The atmosphere pulsed with excitement, a celebration of their little steps. "We shared our pledges and they weren't just words," Jessica chimed in, sharing her experience in reconnecting with her passion for coaching. "I feel alive again." Emma felt energized, her trepidation melting away. Every story unfolded like a thread, binding them together. When it was Sarah's turn, she admitted, "I painted my first piece in years. It was emotional, but cathartic." Just like Emma. The group's laughter rang, each word woven with warmth. Empowered by the stories, Emma stood taller. "What if we took this even further?" she proposed, heart rate escalating with nervous excitement. "What if our art could raise awareness? We could create a community event showcasing our work not just for us, but for everyone." As the idea hung in the air, eyes lit up. "Yes. That's it," Mark exclaimed. "We could invite people to share their stories through art and voice. Together, we could uplift those shadows, inspire more change." Each of them began drawing forth ideas, brainstorming together as the diner turned into a melting pot of creativity, resilience, and hope. "Let's call it Voices of Us, a chance for everyone to express their stories," Emma dreamt aloud, her enthusiasm sparking every heart around her. "We don't have to do it perfectly, but we'll take it step by step. Right?" The group chorused their agreement, determination resonating in every heart. The meeting transformed, momentum building with each discussion. The planning took form, excitement soaring, and Emma felt the weight of her past dissipate. They already felt alive, and the thought of extending this to their town filled her spirit with light. As the clock ticked close to the end of their gathering, Emma felt the need to address one last thing. Taking a deep breath, she stood tall, courage swirling in her chest. I want to thank you all for believing in me, for believing in us. I really thought that stepping out of my comfort zone would unravel me, but look where it brought us: a chance to unite, a chance to rise. Applause erupted. Mark stepped closer, nodding. This is more than a project, it's a movement. We're building something lasting, together. As laughter and conversation intertwined, Emma spotted the familiar figure of her father stepping through the door. His weary smile swept through the room, bringing with it a rush of warmth. She felt emotion flooding her heart. "Dad," she called, rushing to him. Jack's face lit up with pride as she presented her creation, colorful canvases spilling their stories into the world. "You've grown so much, Emma," he murmured, his voice thick with emotion. "I'm proud of you. You're fighting for those whose voices go unheard." In that moment, Emma understood that the weight of the past had begun to transform into the promise of future connections. The unspoken walls had crumbled, replaced by an outpouring of understanding. As the day faded into night, Emma felt a rush of clarity. This was just the beginning. They were venturing into uncharted territory, but together they would rise, hands held tight against whatever storms lay ahead. Now, this is your moment. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss our next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support our journey. Comment your reactions and feelings about this transformative ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful journey. You need to show your support now. Don't wait not even one more second to share.